We tend to think of evolution as a constant process, a march of progress, where every organism is always changing, adapting, upgrading. But what if some creatures just don't? From horseshoe crabs to sharks, to certain jellyfish and even crocodiles, there are species on Earth that seem like they haven't changed in millions of years. How is that possible? Isn't evolution about constant adaptation and change? And what does it actually mean when scientists say something is a living fossil? Today, we're diving into the strange world of evolutionary stasis, why some species barely change at all, and what that reveals about nature's true priorities, not progress, but survival. Evolution isn't always about change. Let's start with a myth. We often picture evolution as a ladder or a timeline, organisms constantly climbing toward complexity, intelligence, or perfection. But evolution isn't a ladder. It's not even a straight path. It's more like a branching bush where each twig represents a species adapting to its own environment. And here's the twist: if something already works really well, there's no pressure to change it. Evolution doesn't care about improvement in the way we do. It cares about fitness, and fitness just means being good enough to survive and reproduce in your environment. So if a species finds itself in a stable niche, where its current body, behavior, and biology work just fine, evolution has no reason to mess with it. In short, no pressure, no change. What is evolutionary stasis? This phenomenon, where a species remains relatively unchanged for long periods of time, is known as evolutionary stasis. And it's more common than you might think. Take the horseshoe crab, for example. It's been around in basically the same form for over 450 million years. That's older than dinosaurs. That's older than trees. Or the coelacanth, a deep-sea fish once thought to be extinct, only to be rediscovered in 1938 looking almost identical to its fossilized ancestors from 400 million years ago. Even modern sharks have changed remarkably little over hundreds of millions of years. Why? Because what they are, works. These animals are not unevolved. In fact, they're evolutionary success stories, models that nature has tested and found so effective, there's been no need to redesign them. Stasis is not equal to stagnation. Now, it's important to understand that evolutionary stasis doesn't mean an organism stops evolving entirely. Even so-called living fossils undergo microevolution, small genetic changes over time. But these changes don't always result in big shifts in form or function. Think of it like updating a software program's back-end code while the interface stays mostly the same. It's still evolving, just not in ways that are obvious on the surface. So if you're picturing these species as frozen in time, unchanged for eons, you're close, but not quite there. The truth is more subtle. Low evolutionary pressure plus genetic stability equals slow, subtle changes. Why do some species change rapidly? By contrast, other organisms evolve rapidly, like bacteria, viruses, or insects. Why? Because they're under constant pressure, changing environments, hosts, predators, antibiotics, competition. These high-stakes situations create evolutionary arms races, where only the fastest adapters survive. Humans are a great example too. Our rapid cultural evolution, language, tools, agriculture, created new selective pressures that sped up certain changes, especially in brain development and social behavior. So while some species take the slow road, others are on a roller coaster of rapid adaptation. The speed of evolution isn't fixed, it's shaped by the environment, reproduction rate, genetic variation, and yes, even luck. Niche perfection. When good enough is better than more. So let's talk about niches. A niche is the specific role an organism plays in its environment, its food, its habitat, its predators, its mating strategy. When a species fits its niche perfectly, there's no evolutionary incentive to change. Why risk it? For instance, crocodiles have been apex predators in swampy environments for over 200 million years. Their combination of stealth, bite force, and aquatic agility is still incredibly effective. Same goes for the nautilus, a deep-sea mollusk with a spiral shell that's barely changed in 500 million years. In its dark, high-pressure world, slow and steady still wins the race. These species live in stable ecosystems, where dramatic shifts in climate or competitors haven't forced them to adapt or die. They're not relics. They're optimized survivors. When stasis breaks, the risk of being too perfect. But here's the flip side. Species in evolutionary stasis may thrive in stable environments, but they can be vulnerable to sudden change. Their specialized traits, while perfect for a certain niche, might become a liability if that niche disappears. The dodo, famously extinct, was perfectly suited to an island with no predators, until humans arrived. Some species ride the stasis wave for millions of years, until climate change, habitat destruction, or invasive species pulled the rug out. So while evolutionary stasis can be a sign of success, it's also a gamble, betting on stability in a world that's always changing. Human evolution and the myth of constant progress. Here's where it gets personal. We often think of ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution, smart, adaptable, dominant. But human evolution isn't linear either. In fact, many of our traits are leftovers from earlier environments, our stress response, sugar cravings, even social dynamics. In some ways, we're a mash-up of old code running on new hardware. Not always well adapted to the world we've created. And just like any other species, we're shaped by our environment. As climate, technology, and society change, so too will we, whether through biological evolution or cultural shifts. Evolution doesn't care about superiority. It only cares about fit. Final thoughts. So, why do some species never seem to evolve? Because evolution isn't about change for its own sake. It's about survival. And if a species fits its environment, like a key in a lock, there may be no better adaptation than simply staying the same. These so-called living fossils aren't failures. They're champions of a different kind of success, consistency, stability, and resilience over eons. But their stories also carry a warning. Because while stasis can protect a species in the short term, it also makes them vulnerable to disruption. And in a world facing rapid environmental change, from climate to extinction rates to human expansion, adaptability may become the most valuable trait of all. Maybe the real lesson is this. Evolution isn't about progress. It's about fit. And fit can mean many things, fast or slow, changing or still. What matters most is survival. If this video shifted the way you think about evolution, even just a little, give it a like, share it with a curious friend, and hit subscribe for more deep dives like this. What's your favorite living fossil? Or what creature do you think has secretly outsmarted evolution? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your theories. Until next time, stay curious.